Okay, guys, welcome to our first Facebook Q&A. We got a lot of questions here. No one was able to join live, but we're going to go through all the different questions that we do have. We have 4 really good ones that we're going to try to get through pretty quickly. If you guys are watching this as a recording, feel free to put the speed on like 1.5 so that you can listen in and you don't have to listen to us rambling on and on, because I'm sure there will be a lot of rambling here. But yeah, these Q&As are just here to provide you guys some free coaching advice for some common questions that might come up. And we're going to try to do them at least once a month. So if you can join or you have a different time of week that would work better for you, we're happy to be flexible with that. So I'm going to start with the first question, guys. First one that we got here was actually one in the Facebook. That was, I was told that to lose weight, you should take your goal weight, multiply by 12, and eat those calories while making sure to get enough protein. Is that good? I lost weight doing that last year and then went back up to maintenance for 9 months. And just 2 weeks ago, I cut back down to 1650 calories, but I haven't seen weight loss yet. So I personally have never heard of that equation, but I did it in my calculator before this. And I mean, like, sure, that's probably going to put you in a calorie deficit. But my question here is, I wonder what her maintenance was for 9 months. Like, did she actually find her maintenance? Because if that's how she's finding deficit calories, does she actually have a way to find her maintenance calories?
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good question. I think individually, if we all did that 12 equation, some of us, that would be a deficit. Some of us would be a very aggressive deficit, and some of it would be not enough of a deficit. So, Kate, when you do the 12x, what does that make you?
So if I do my weight as 120, that would put me at 1400 calories, which where my maintenance was 5 months ago, that would be like a 500 calorie deficit, which, like, honestly, probably not bad. I'd probably want to die, but like probably like I would definitely lose weight. There's no doubt about that. 100%.
It doesn't take into consideration like how tall you are, how much muscle you have, right? Any of that. So like mine would put me at 1560, which is not a deficit for me, unfortunately. Like I literally have to be in the 13s and 14s for a deficit. So, which is miserable.
Well, and then I just did one for 180 pounds. That would be 21, almost 2200 calories. And like a lot of women don't even eat that much as it is.
Correct.
So how do we know that that's actually going to be accurate for you?
Yeah, I agree. And for me, that puts me at 1600 calories. If I just do my current body weight, which that's my breakfast and pre-workout. So that's not going to work out for me. 1600 calories. But I think that, we bring up a lot of good points here when you're looking at, I think the biggest thing, and the reason why we do things a little bit differently here at EPN, is that using calculators only sometimes gets you in the ballpark, but you always have to adjust based on your individual data. So Christina, as you're wondering if that's the right number for you, one thing that I would suggest here is going back, and you already have data, it sounds like, from when you did that fat loss phase last year. I would go map out like how much were you eating and what was your rate of loss at that point. And then we can usually use that data to back into what your maintenance is. And you might go back and look at it and go, oh, wow, I targeted 1650, but maybe in reality you were 1550 to 1650, or there's a number of kind of nuanced pieces. And then we look at comparing to the last 2 weeks, and maybe your target was 1650 and you're playing 1650 to 1750 and you're not nearly seeing nearly as much here. So targets matter less than what you're actually doing. And then we can use that data to back into like, where is your current maintenance? So one other thing too here, guys, like weight trend and weight fluctuations, right? So sometimes 2 weeks, depending on where in your cycle you started, this deficit can make a massive difference. Like for me, if I start a deficit 5 days before I ovulate, I don't see any change in my trend line until week 3, because my ovulation weight spike is about 1.5 pounds for 6 days. So if I start 5 days before ovulation, I'll have that elevated weight for about 10 days, and it looks like nothing is happening.
It's a great point. And also, I would go back and look and see because you ate 1650 and maybe your last deficit, what did you actually go up to for your maintenance calories? How much of a change did you actually make? Because when you go into a deficit and you lose weight, your maintenance calories are different than when you started the deficit, right? They're usually a little bit less, not a ton, depending on how much weight you lost. But that's another thing to consider is maybe that, sure, maybe you weren't necessarily like gaining anything back during your maintenance phase, but like, how do you know you were actually eating enough? You could have still been in a slight deficit, or your metabolism had just downregulated for depending on how long you cut, because we don't have any of that information either. How long were you sitting there? How much weight did you lose? And then what did you bump up to? Sure, it might be a deficit from where you were eating, but based on where your maintenance truly is, it might not be enough because you might not have actually reached your maintenance during that 9 months. So just a lot of questions here that I think we need more information if we want to give you like a better answer. So we'd love to have you post that in the group later, and we can really dig into this with you if you're interested in that. So really good question though. I'd be curious if anyone else has tried that calculation because I've literally never heard of it.
I feel like I've seen that one floating around from like people on social media, you know, like influencers and stuff that are like, if you're going to do a deficit, start here. But like, yeah, same thing. I did mine just based off of like more current body weight. And it was like 1560, like Mickey, right? Because we're probably using the same number. And it's like, I haven't had to go that low in a deficit ever. But you know, that's just, I don't know, I'm taller than you. So maybe that's why, but you know what I'm saying? Like, that is just kind of how it goes. But that was exactly what I was going to say, Kate. Like, I think oftentimes too, with the way that we do things at EPN, right? Like we go from deficit to projected maintenance overnight, rather than doing this slow reverse. And for a lot of women, it's like they start to do this slow reverse. And the second they think they're no longer in a deficit, they just stop. And then it's like, depending on how you were tracking your data, you could have, either been in a slight deficit still, or you were just at the very, very, very bottom of your maintenance range. And depending on how adaptive your metabolism is, you could have been shortchanging yourself an extra 300 calories from the top end of your maintenance. And then it's like, okay, I'm going to go back to 1650. Well, that's not doing anything because you've been sitting at 1800 for the last 9 months, thinking you're in maintenance, but like you were kind of putting yourself in an adaptive state. And then all of a sudden you try. And then this is where I think so many women get stuck, because then they go lower and lower, thinking that's the answer. And then all of a sudden 2 years later, they're like, what the heck? I can't lose weight. Nothing works. I tried this before. And it's like, you didn't actually pull yourself out of where you needed to be. And hormones have actually been tanking for the last like 2 years. And you didn't even realize it. It's just been like a slow burn. And so, yeah, I think this is a great question. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. I've seen throughout the years, like a 10 calories per body weight or current body weight up to like even 12 for goal weight would be kind of like a starting calorie deficit. So I think that's just like an easy answer that's been out there. And I think that's the difference of how we do things is like, I mean, like Laura said, like calculators are a good place to help you get started, but it's so specific to you, like finding what your true maintenance, surplus, and deficit calories are, that you have the best rates of change. Once you know those, like that's our goal, is take you through all those phases, you know them, and then you don't have to keep guessing and then wondering like, well, why didn't my deficit work this time when it did last time? It's like, well, now you've got so much data, you can't fail once you come out of our program.
Yeah. But also, like, what does your life look like now compared to then, right? True. Are you moving less? Are you moving more? Have your workouts changed? Like, there's so many factors here that like using one simple number is just like, it's giving you one piece of the puzzle, right? And that's why, like, when you're actually tracking all the stuff with us, it's like, there's so many questions being asked that you can't just be like, should I be patient? Which was Christina's follow-up question here. Should I just be patient? It's like, maybe, but maybe not. Like, maybe you're just wasting your time eating less food when really like you need to drop further, or you need to spend more time doing something else, or you need to move your butt more. Like, so many different factors there and levers to pull. So yeah, Christina, let us know if you want to dive in further with that. We'd be happy to. Okay, cool. Next question, Carly, you had one about warm-up weights.
Yeah. So we've been actually talking about this quite a bit in my group, but the question was posed, the percentage calculator was helpful for picking warm-up weights. I think I've been underdosing my warm-up sets. So let's dive into like, you know, how do we make sure that our warm-up sets are actually doing what they're supposed to be doing, and we're not just kind of like doing nothing and then shortchanging ourselves on our actual working sets?
Yeah, that's a great question, and something that's come up quite a bit. I think probably because I've been posting some stories about it, and y'all will see a post from us and TPA about warm-ups later this week that'll tie all this together we're about to talk about. But warm-ups have two big functions. One is to actually warm up the muscles you're about to use, so that you know that, and also to give you a neurological warm-up so that you are mentally prepared for the weight you are about to push. When we are seeing people questioning volume or going, I don't think this is working, or I don't need more, usually they're sandbagging their warm-up so that they're not able to push to the point of failure that we're prescribing in the programming. And so the example that I know, most upper body movements, you need about 2 to sometimes 3 for a heavier one warm-up sets, and lower body you're going to need about 3, maybe 4. It's a really, really heavy weight on the big compound lifts. The biggest reason here is, guys, you got to be prepared. If you only have 2 working sets to do, you want to make sure that you can push both those sets to the desired intensity using a solid weight. The biggest rule of thumb I have for you guys is if you get to your 2 work sets and you're able to do way more reps on your second set, that tells us you are not either muscularly or neurologically ready to push the intensity on the first set. So if you if you're lifting more weights in the second set, that is a big, big sign that you did not warm up adequately.
Yeah. I think also, like, be willing to police yourself in the sense that if you end up feeling like you didn't hit the proper RIR, why just stop? Even if you were like, this is going to be one of my work sets, and then you get to it and you're like, maybe that was too light. There's nothing stopping you from just doing an extra set, going up a little bit or pushing harder or something like that. Like, you guys have to also remember that you're not, like, if you're in the gym on a time crunch, I completely understand that, like, you don't want to do 5 sets, right? 3 warm-up sets and 2 working sets. I totally get that. It takes a long time to get through that. But also, when you're first starting a workout program and you're not really sure where to start, you kind of have to, like, experiment a little bit, right? So, and that's where it comes in of, like, maybe that wasn't heavy enough, or maybe it was, and I need to just, like, keep trying a little bit harder here in terms of, like, pushing a little bit heavier and not being willing to just be like, okay, 2 sets and I'm done, like, whatever, right? So I think that's another piece of it. But, like, someone like me, I've been doing TPA now for over 1.5 years, and for most of the movements, I kind of know where my starting point is going to be based on my history. So I'm not necessarily, like, needing to think about, like, oh, should I start with 10 pounds for this and then go to 15 pounds and then to 20 pounds? Like, I can usually pick a quick little warm up to get me there, and it's going to save you time that way. It doesn't mean you should skip the warm up just because you know where you're starting. It just means that you can streamline it a little bit more. So maybe you're like, hey, I'm going to do a 15-pound set for 6. I'm going to do a 25-pound set for 4. And then I'm going to get right into my workout set because I know I'm going to start that at 30 or 35, right? So think about, like, the experience you have with those movements too. Any other inputs?
I was going to say one question in case somebody asked this. What, Carly, you said about the warm-up percentage calculator. What are you talking about?
I think she means in TPA, where I say do your first work set at, like, do 5 to 6 reps at 50%, okay, and then your second warm-up set, like, 3 to 5 reps at 70%. Okay. Yeah.
I was like just clarifying that there's no calculator.
Yeah. No. One other thing I will add here, though, guys, is we get really heavy weights or you're getting close to the end of the cycle. An optional, if you have the time, and you're a little bit concerned about your weight, is sometimes it helps to add in, like, 1 rep right before. And the way that I will position this is, say you're doing a heavy RDL and your working weight is 165 pounds. So you might do 6 reps at 85, 4 reps at 125, and then you're like, okay, maybe I'll do 2 at 145. It's okay to go and pull one rep at that heavy weight and then rest 2 minutes and actually do your work set if it helps prime you to be like, oh, this is how heavy that weight is going to be. I do that pretty frequently with my big, heavy sets. It's not everything, but if it's, like, something that I'm like, oh, I I want to be mentally and physically locked in for the set. If you want to pull like one rep at like 95% or potentially the working weight, that can help prime you, be like, okay, this is what it's going to feel like. So when I jump into my work set in 90 seconds or 2 minutes, I am like ready to do it.
Mhm.
Yeah. This kind of also goes, Laura, and you can kind of chime in on this too, but one of my peeps the other day was asking, like, what happens when I'm trying to, like, they're using a leg press and they're like, I can't put weight on yet. Like, the machine itself is like my working, like, how do I warm up for that where I'm not even adding weight because, like, whatever. And I, encourage, I'm like, I guarantee you're going to be adding weight quicker than you think, because a leg press is one of those where, but like, how do I warm up for something if I'm not even like adding weight to the machine, because the machine itself is like feeling very challenging.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. And that's a tough one, because some of them, like some of the hack squat machines, like I'm only putting 35 pounds on. So the weight of the sled can be a little bit more challenging. I would say if it's too heavy at an empty sled to do it, you may want to not regress, but choose one of the other swaps in the program to do the working movements. If you're like, oh, I get under the sled and I can't even do like 3 to 6 reps and it feels really challenging, that might be, hey, I want to do a heels elevated back squat, or heels elevated back squat, or I want to do a foam roller back squat, or I want to potentially try another machine. So maybe the hack squat isn't it for you, but you could do a quad dominant leg press instead.
Yeah. Yep.
Smart. Those are good tips, especially the one of using the 1 rep of your working weight. I like that one. Christina, thanks for joining. We answered your question, but we're going to go through 2 more questions and then we'll come back to you, okay? Because we have lots of questions to ask you back. So thanks for hopping on. Okay. Mickey, what was your question that you had for your group this week that we were going to answer?
So, so I work primarily with peri and menopausal women, right? And so in this season, like many times we're sitting much heavier than we want to be. And, body fat is changing and storing differently and things. And so all the things that we used in the past no longer work like they did. And so it's really difficult for so many people to kind of go like, I understand that I need to build muscle. I know in my head that I should do a muscle build first or work through maintenance, but I'm really sitting 30, 40 more pounds heavier than I've ever been. It's very common for a lot of these ladies to be like, I'm heavier than when I was pregnant and I don't want to keep gaining weight, right? I need to get some fat off. So kind of how do we navigate that? What does that look like if we're not wanting to gain weight, but at EPN, we're always encouraging you to build muscle first?
Yeah, I think my question for that group would be like, what are you expecting from the build that we're going to do? Because like, when I think about a build, I'm like, oh yeah, like 5 pounds, like let's build like 5 or 6 pounds. And then I'm probably going to lose like 10 to 15 in my cut. Like, cool, I'm there. But I think maybe there's like some fear around like, if I do this build, I'm going to gain another 30 to 40 pounds, which is like, first of all, let's hope that doesn't happen. But like in these groups, if you gain 30 pounds in one of our builds, I don't know what you're doing. I literally have no idea.
You haven't been showing up. You haven't been showing up week to week. You've been ghosting because there's no way we'd let that happen.
Yeah. Or like full dirty bulk, just like they
Full
told me to
set.
eat whatever I want.
So I have one girl right now that's finishing, she's in month 11 of a 1-year build. And she's in her mid 40s, and we are up 6 pounds in a year. That's how long it took her to gain that weight. I have another lady she's like 60, I think, and she gained 3 pounds in her 6-month build, and now is down 15 pounds. So sometimes I think too, it's like, yeah, like that's a great question. Is what's your expectation? What does a build look and feel and sound like, right? So,
and I think the thing that I'll add to this, guys, is obviously I'm passionate about this topic. I'll be a little more succinct here. Is we have to stop equating weight gain with fat gain. So when we are doing a muscle build and you guys are doing a lean build where our goal is to maximize that the scale going up is mostly lean tissue. So when you are at EPN and we're setting targets, we're looking at least 50%, usually closer to 69% of that is lean tissue. the protective effects of lean tissue and muscle mass. So if we're up to 5 to 6 pounds here, that means 3 to 5 of those pounds is muscle mass. Are you telling me that you don't want to gain 3 to 5 pounds of muscle mass? Like that's the real question. Like, okay, I cannot gain 1 pound of body fat. That also means I'm also gaining 3 to 5 pounds of muscle mass. And that's the conversation we have to have here, is going, if we have that 3 to 5 pounds of muscle mass, it will help set us up for a more successful deficit. And we cannot be in fat loss year round. You are not, if you're here and you're signing up to work with us or you're listening here, it's because we haven't got to where you want to go. If you were at where you want to be, you wouldn't be here listening, right? And so we know you guys have tried to be in fat loss year round. We know that isn't very successful. And so if we can add lean tissue in the off season and set ourselves up for a more successful fat loss phase, then we are doing ourselves a great service here. And if you guys really, the one thing I would implore you to do is take a look through all of our periodization testimonials. Every single person in there has told us, I wish we could share the ones where people weren't comfortable to share, but we only share who people are comfortable with. We have clients who in that 30 to 50 pounds of weight to lose category who still did the build and they're like, holy cow, this is the easiest fat loss phase I've ever done. Yes, I still have some weight to lose, but it's actually not as much as I thought it was, because I experienced significant recomp in the build. I gained a lot more muscle. I've actually learned how to make a fat loss phase easier so that this process is going much more quickly than it ever has in the past, because I spent the time being uncomfortable to gain that 3 to 6 pounds in the build phase in between my fat loss phases.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, and I think also, like, let's take the muscle and the body composition out of it. But like, what do we know that happens to like our hormones when we diet, right? Like, that things start to take a hit because that's just literally the body's way of saying, hey, I don't like that I'm under eating. Let me regulate things, right? Being somebody who has a chronic thyroid condition, and that's like, I have to be very, very cautious of my deficits and things like that, because things can go sideways more quickly for me than, someone else. But I think that oftentimes we just think about like eating more to build muscle, which is important, and that's a whole part of the process. But like, you have to give your body time to re-regulate and get back to that homeostasis and to just like chill for a minute. And I've been the person that's had like the ego, and I'm like, oh, I'm going to go back into a deficit sooner than I should have. And it just didn't work. Like, it just was so much harder because I just didn't give my body that time in between, which is why we don't suggest our clients to just go right back into a deficit after being in maintenance for 2 months, right? Like, it's very, that would be obviously very, very case by case, but like, that's just not a recommendation. And so I think that like, also, if we haven't spent enough time out of the deficit, then the next one's going to be harder. And if we're going to be out of the deficit, like, let's make the most of it, right? And that is what our entire goal here is. And oftentimes we're just like not getting to that top end of our maintenance. We're not pushing ourselves over into that very, very slight surplus. And then that next deficit just becomes harder. And then we're like, what the heck? This isn't working. And so I think from like a muscle building, absolutely. And all of that obviously goes into play, but like with just like hormones, metabolism, and just like also mental, like we've all been there, like dieting's hard. You get into that mental fatigue and you're just like done. You just don't want to do it. And then the next one becomes harder. And then you throw your hands in the air and you're like, screw this. I'm just like, why even try? And so it's also a lot of it, I feel like, helps with the in between the ears, because you're actually feeding yourself enough for long enough. And you're working through that scary fear of eating enough, which so many women struggle with.
That's exactly what I was thinking, Carly. It's like, I think the people that are most afraid of doing a build are the people that are also most afraid of eating more food in general, because they know that when they do eat more food, it tends to lead to this like uncontrollable hunger and appetite. Yep. And you feel like you can never come out of that. But I think one thing we do really well here is just teach you that like, technically being in a surplus is like eating an extra apple a day. Yeah. And when you think about it from that perspective, it's like, oh, like, you mean I don't have to go eat like a full plate of nachos and like, 17 hot dogs today, and that's going to like put me in my surplus? Like, sure. First of all, if you're eating 17 hot dogs here, I don't know where that came from, but that's just
she's pregnant. That's what she's thinking about.
Hot dogs. But think about from that perspective, it's like a lot of people that go into a build, the reason that we do it for so long, like for Mickey's client that she just said, like 11 months in, I'm betting like 3 or 4 of those months, nothing was happening because she just had to keep eating more. Like the reason that she didn't gain, 10 to 15 pounds in her build is because half of that build, she actually had to just increase her calories, and she was probably losing a little, staying the same until we actually found where that tipping point was. So most of the time when you're in a build, like, you're really just teaching your body to adapt to a higher food intake, right? So sometimes you see 2 to 3 pounds and you're like, wow, okay, but now when I do a deficit, I can eat 200 more calories more than I have in the past and also lose weight a lot faster. So it's not a perfect situation for everybody, but for a lot of people that actually put the time in, it really does make a difference. I will say that for a lot of women in perimenopause, menopause, for a lot of women in general, you probably have to do a build for longer than you're going to want to in order to make this happen. And by build, think of it as just focusing on eating a little bit more food to let your body heal a little bit, right? Because perimenopause and menopause are a huge stressor on your body. Your body is literally completely changing from the inside, right? Hormonally, mentally, emotionally, all of those things. So
It's adult puberty. Isn't that what we named it?
Yeah,
right?
it's adult puberty. And
So-
I have a middle schooler going through puberty at the same time. It's really fun.
Imagine if you had your child going through puberty and you were also like, I also don't want you to eat anything. Guess how moody and rude and terrible they would be? They're already terrible. Just imagine how much more when you're not feeding them. So then essentially you're doing that to yourself, right? So I think that's a great question, Mickey. I love it.
Yeah. I think one thing too, I just want to add is like, it's been really, really powerful. I mean, obviously our one-on-one clients kill it with these builds and things, right? Because they've got us like a lot of our focus attention, like in these cohorts, because you're in a group with like-minded people and you have the same goals. Like I have this menopause and muscle cohort right now going on. And for the first time ever, 5 out of the 10 girls came to the call and all said, we're doing an aggressive build. And I was like, okay. Then they're like full send. They're like, we're sick of this. We're doing it the right way. And I was like, we're ready. So those girls are full send in their build.
Hell
It's
yeah.
fun.
Hell yeah. I can't wait to see the results.
Me too.
Hopefully like in 6 months, we can come to one of these Q&As and you will actually have like some freaking amazing testimonials to be like.
Oh, we've already seen them. They're already a great work in progress. Those girls are crushing it. So
yeah, it's awesome.
Laura, you had one more question for us and then we can hop on the people that jumped on live.
I did.
Do you remember it?
No.
Me either.
It's the mind pump one.
No, we tried not to do that one.
Oh.
I thought it was another workout one. Okay. Christina or Nikki? Nikki, we have a big question to drop into with Christina. Did you have a question that you wanted to answer, or are you just here to listen?
No, I was just here to listen.
Okay, welcome.
Thanks.
Okay, Christina, we went through a deep dive of your question at the beginning of this call, but we just have a few questions for you. If you are you in a good place to like respond and talk? Maybe not. Maybe she just.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Well, welcome. So first question we had was, we saw your question in here about your calculation of using the multiplying your goal weight by 12, getting your 1650 calories. And then our first question was, after you, first of all, how long did you diet at those calories? And did you stay at 1650 the whole time, or did you drop?
For 2 weeks. And yes, no, I stayed the same.
No, I mean the previous time you said that I lost weight doing that last year. How long were you dieting?
Got you.
Yeah.
It was probably about 6 months, and I started up at a pretty high amount and kept dropping because and I dropped like 50 pounds.
Wow.
That way.
Amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Did you get down to 1650 by the end of your deficit, or how long did you sit at 1650?
No, I was at 1750 maybe, or 1800 at the end of my deficit.
Okay.
Probably 17, I think 17. And then I took like, I don't know, pretty many months break at maintenance.
How many calories were you eating at maintenance, and how did you figure that out?
Well, my maintenance phase was like, yeah, it was pretty many months. It was from like, it was probably at least 9 months. And I I wasn't really tracking. And but I know I was eating 2,000 or more most days for sure.
How do you know?
Probably anywhere between 2,000 to 2,400.
How do you know?
And I wasn't gaining any weight. Well, I tracked a few times in that time frame, and that's what it came out to. Plus, I've been tracking for on and off since like 2013, so I have a pretty good feel for what I'm eating. So I know I was over 2,000 most of those days, and probably closer to 2,400 because I kind of ate whatever I wanted to, and I didn't gain weight, which was fine. But yeah, then I decided I wanted to lose like just a couple more pounds, and because I'm at like, I think I'm at 28% body fat, and yeah, anyway, I did it for 2 weeks, nothing happened. I do think some body recomp happened, but yeah.
For the past 2 weeks, have you been tracking your food diligently?
Yeah.
And your calories were at 1,650 every day, or what was the average?
Yeah. Some days were more like 1,550 because I wasn't super hungry. Some days were more like 1,750, but yeah, around there.
Okay. And just in the past 2 weeks, what has life been looking like?
I would say not as much stress as, definitely not as much stress as I had been. I wouldn't say it's too bad. Yeah.
What do you do for work?
I'm a stay-at-home mom.
Okay.
I do a puppy photography, but on the side, but that's, yeah.
Cute. What's your activity level like right now?
So I'm playing pickleball one morning a week for an hour, and I go to a workout class with some friends one morning a week. That's an hour, and that's more of like a HIIT style workout. So those are about the only cardio I get. I walk pretty frequently. I'm getting about 8 to 10,000 steps a day, maybe closer to 8. And I do I have MAPS anabolic, and I do about 3 workouts a week, but I'm only doing about half because I have a 20-month-old who gets tired of the gym after a while. So
That's fair.
I don't know, it's almost like MAPS 15, but it's 3 days a week.
Okay. Cool. It sounds like you have a decent foundation then of everything.
Yeah. Yeah, and I've been weightlifting for years.
Okay. Guys, what are your thoughts?
When you say nothing has happened, are we measuring photos, measurements, and scale, or just scale? And how often are you taking scale metrics?
Scale, and I am doing some pictures. I'm not very good at getting that to, I don't know, getting them side by side and looking and seeing if there is actually any difference. And I think I'm pretty sure there is difference. I'm mostly frustrated in my upper thighs. You say hi?
Hi, buddy. Oh my God. So cute. So when you're taking scale, are you seeing a trend? It's just not as quickly as you want, or how frequently have we been taking scale metrics?
I weigh myself every morning, and it's been 143, and it will not budge.
Exactly to the decimal.
Yeah, like basically I go like 143.8, 143.4. I don't know. It's one or the other. It's like nothing.
Totally. And where are you at menstrual cycle wise too?
Right now I'm in the follicular phase.
Okay. So one of the things we chatted about right before this call is that depending on when you start your deficit can make it look like the first 2 weeks, nothing happens on the scale.
Okay.
The example I gave here is for me, if I start a deficit like 5 to 7 days before I ovulate, it looks like nothing happens on the scale for the first 2 weeks because the ovulation water flux up hides the progress of the scale going down. And that's why utilizing both photos and measurements helps kind of give a holistic picture here. Because sometimes it's that if we know that these calories were working before and we are at the exact same activity and steps and stress level as we were before, then likely could just be time of the month that we started, especially for somebody who isn't as sensitive to water fluctuations when we change calories too.
Yeah, because this would be my 3rd week, and I would have started in the luteal phase. So yeah, that might be more than than I think. It's very frustrating. And I just wasn't sure, like I'm pretty short. So a lot of people online say like, you should have your calories up higher, but I wanted to do like a short calorie deficit, a shortcut, and then go back up to maintenance. But yeah, there's so much conflicting information out there.
Christina, what's the, like, why do you want to go into a shortcut right now? Like, what's the motivation behind it?
I want to get pregnant in a few months.
Well,
And kind of
why do you feel like you need to cut in order to do that? Do you feel uncomfortable in your body, like before you start gaining weight to be pregnant? Or what is it?
not necessarily. It probably just get my body fat percentage just down a little bit more before I go into pregnancy.
Okay. Did your doctor recommend that? Or is that just something you feel like you want to do?
That's just something I want to do.
Okay. Because another factor there with getting pregnant and everything, like cutting down your calories a lot right now, if you're having trouble losing weight, that could also be a red flag that something is going on internally, that something's not balanced hormonally, something is not balanced stress-wise. So then if you are like, hey, like I want to do this at all costs, I'm going to force my body into this, we drop down, because my other thought was, without knowing that information, was like, maybe you need to go into a deeper deficit because you did lose 50 pounds, even though you were eating at 2,000 to 2,400. Maybe your metabolism is extremely adaptive right now because of all the weight that you lost, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah, it was a big amount of weight, and I lost it in a year's time.
yeah.
So yeah, maybe. I wanted to mention on the cycle, on the hormones. I actually got my hormones tested last luteal phase, 7 days after ovulation, and they were amazing. My progesterone was at 17.
Amazing.
My estradiol was at 150. So
Good.
fabulous numbers.
Good.
Better than I've had, actually. So
Yeah.
I mean, it seems like my hormones are great, but I don't know.
Yeah, I think in this case, it's like you may have to dig a little bit deeper into the deficit to see changes, but you're going to have to balance that with like, is it really worth it to me to do that if I am trying to get pregnant? And would it be more useful to maybe just, hey, even though you were eating 2,000 to 2,400 calories before, what if instead of just not tracking, you just tracked and tried to actually hit 2,000 calories a day and went for a little bit of body recomposition? Because if you're working out as much as you are right now, you're doing all the things right. Like, what if you don't actually need a huge calorie deficit? What if you just need to like track your food and be more aware of it?
Okay. So you think my level of exercise is good? Like I'm doing like 3 days at 20 minutes maybe.
Yeah. If
of weightlifting.
you are trying to get pregnant right now, I would not try to add a bazillion workouts to your week. I would try to get in the highest quality workout in the shortest amount of time that you have available right now. Don't push yourself to like these crazy high hit workouts and go crazy with that stuff. Like honestly, you want low stress on your body. So one, that's why I say bump the calories up, just be more aware of them.
Okay.
Stressor reduced, right? Number two, don't try to add a bunch of extra activity. Stressor reduced, right? Keep your body functioning well. In like, honestly, if you're walking a lot and getting the movement that way, and you are just tracking and being more aware of it, your body will probably drop down nicely because it's feeling recovered and feeling in a place of like, hey, I feel really safe right now and I'm ready to do this, right? Like, let's go. It's time to get pregnant. You know, the other thing is, like the holidays are coming up. So how much are you actually going to stick to this shortcut? Then a bunch of food, then you're going to be like, oh, let me go back into this cut. Let me eat a bunch of food again. And then let me go back to this cut. And then we're going to try to get pregnant. Your body's going to be like, what just happened?
Yeah.
And the one thing I'll add there is if you're trying to get pregnant in a few months, the eggs you are producing now are the ones that are dropping in 90 days. So if you're trying to get pregnant in 3 months, like we might be shortchanging ourselves right now by adding this significant stress on the body for the equivalent of, let's say, over that year time, you lost 50 pounds. So 1650 roughly is a pound a week. So if we're doing a shortcut, it is 4 weeks until Thanksgiving. So is 4 pounds, and my guess is that's maybe 1% body fat for you, is like that 4 pounds worth it to potentially shortchange your fertility in 3 months when you're trying to get pregnant too. And like when we could instead focus on like, hey, what can I do to like best support my body in these few months leading up to that fertility window that I'm trying to target, and maximize, you know, adding some, or not maximize in this case because we were trying to get fertile, but like maximize, hey, what can I do to support from like a whole food perspective, making sure I'm getting my protein in, nutrient quality, especially in this very, very crazy season, especially with a 20-month-old who, I mean, since you're stay at home, you're probably not having to deal with like the daycare boogers and everything, but everybody, all my young parents are getting sick right now, and like supporting your immune system and everything during this time could be a big benefit.
Yeah, I feel like we're pretty healthy as a family. But yeah, okay. So yeah, it's just there's so much conflicting information out there. Like you had mentioned, like maybe I should just cut my calories deeper, but then also mentioned like maybe I should just stay in 2000. Like, yeah.
So I think what I think that you have to figure out is what is more important for you right now. Is it cut a little bit of body weight? And if that's the case, I think you're going to have to cut deeper into the cut in order to do that. But that's a huge trade-off for wanting to get pregnant. So that's what I mean. I'm not necessarily saying like you have to choose one or the other. I'm saying that if you choose to cut deeper, I think you're kind of missing out on the actual goal here. Like the overarching goal to get pregnant. So I think that in order to lose weight right now, you're probably going to have to go deeper. I don't think you should do that because your ultimate goal is to get pregnant. And I think that instead, we should just track more to get more aware, focus on your habits like stress management. What is your digestion looking like? How has your sleep been? I know you have a 20-month-old, so like that's a fake question, but like, what's your sleep been like?
Really good, it's pretty good. I would say we are in bed by 9:30, sleeping by 10 every night. Yeah. And like up by 6 or 7. So
So I think like unfortunately getting pregnant is like the least, like the leading up to that is not very exciting because it's more of just like calming your nervous system, relaxing, trying to keep stress levels. And I know that's like the most cliche thing ever, guys, to hear like, if you want to get pregnant, just don't be stressed. Like I get like that's really hard, but like are there ways that you can find calmness throughout your day, right? Are there ways that you can reduce the stressors on your body? So one of those stressors being a calorie deficit. It's not necessarily that you can't do it, but I think that considering where we're at in the year right now and what's going on and things, it's just like, hey, if you do want to get pregnant right after the holidays, or maybe you're trying right now, I don't necessarily think that like cutting down a couple percentages of body fat is going to necessarily hurt your chances based on where you're at.
You don't think that cutting down will hurt my chances of getting pregnant?
Cutting down will like,
or will hurt
you more likely to get pregnant.
Okay. Yeah, true.
Sorry,
because it's hard to know. Yeah, it's yeah, I mean, I think like I'm at, I don't know, around, it's hard. I don't know my body fat percentage because I'm pretty sure my scale that says what it is way off. It's very frustrating, and I don't really have anybody like any businesses local that I can get like an in-body scan or whatever. But I'm thinking that I'm around 28 some people say 26, sometimes some people say 30. I don't know.
Sure.
Somewhere around that. And so I don't like, maybe that is, I mean, at a perfectly healthy spot for a pregnancy.
Yeah. And also, Christina, like depending on the level of body fat that you do have, like when I got pregnant a couple months ago, I feel like my body fat percentage was actually at like a very healthy point. I think it was probably around like 23 to 25% maybe. And I definitely didn't have the body that I wanted. Right. But during first trimester, I almost gained 0 weight because my body fat percentage was very healthy when I started. So the other thing you have to think about is like your body fat percentage sounds very healthy for getting pregnant, which means like you might not, how much weight did you gain in your first pregnancy?
25.
Okay, perfect.
Or no, 30. Yeah, it was 30.
Okay.
But I started at a lot heavier weight. I started at like, almost
Sure.
30 pounds more or whatever than I am now.
Sure.
And so, yeah, then it was just like, it was a lot for my small frame.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think right now your body seems to be in a much healthier place
Yeah.
going into this.
Yeah.
So that weight gain is probably going to look a lot different. And if your habits are a lot different during pregnancy than they were during the first one, that weight gain is probably going to look a lot different. Even when you gain 25, 30 pounds, it's probably going to be more central to your actual belly versus, previously, I'm sure you noticed it in more areas, right? So that's something that you can consider.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. They're so it's so hard to know how many calories you should be eating because there's so much conflicting information out there. It's so frustrating. Mind Pump. I think, are you guys associated with Mind Pump? Sort of? No?
Not at-
Are you not? Okay. Do you
You're
know
I
about
just-
Mind Pump?
Yeah,
Oh.
Christina, I just am in top poster in that group.
Oh, okay. So that's how I found you. Okay. I'm like,
No, you're good.
they're always very much like, you have to get your calories above 2000. And it's like, well, it's very hard to know sometimes what you should be eating.
Yeah, and I think they come at it from a very generic Gen Pop advice here. And the way that we approach EPN is a little bit more structured when it comes to nutrition. So it's about finding what your individual maintenance is. And unfortunately, none of us can tell you what that is outside of you tracking and putting in kind of okay, what are the reps of where am I at? And what am I doing here? But the one thing that I will say, so Kate, Carly, Mickey, and I have coached many women through pregnancy and postpartum era, and the women who eat enough going into pregnancy, eat enough all the way through the third trimester, don't try and gain as little weight as possible in the pregnancy, who feed themselves to the maximum amount of their top end of maintenance through breastfeeding, have far better outcomes when it comes to being their body responding well. And you would be surprised because the amount of women we have making sure we're eating 3,000 plus calories when they're breastfeeding, or 2,500, depending on where your maintenance is, but they're eating the most amount of calories breastfeeding. When they do a postpartum fat loss phase, it is night and day difference than those who try to gain as little as possible throughout pregnancy, who shortchange their milk supply, breastfeeding, and then really, really struggle because they're very nutrient depleted trying to do a fat loss phase 9 to 12 months postpartum. And so the one thing that I would say for you here is as we look at your big goals, your 1A for the next 2 years is I want to carry another child very healthily. And I think 4 pounds is not going to make or break that if we can make sure that we are feeding yourself well with nutrient quality for the next 2 years. You are setting yourself up for significant postpartum success rather than focusing on the near term of a 4 pound weight loss.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
We kind of have to cut off our time here. I'd love to dive deeper with you. I'm going to send you a message just because I work with women that are trying to get pregnant. So I'll send you a message. We can talk offline and just kind of you can reach out to me at any time because I know this time is it just requires a lot of freaking support. Trust me. I was trying for 7 months this year to try to get pregnant, and it was the most lonely period of my life. So if you do need support, all of us are here for that. But I'll make sure to reach out to you directly just so you have my contact information too.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
All
right, guys. Well, before we wrap up today, we appreciate anyone who was listening with us, and we will be on at some point next month, potentially. I know it's Thanksgiving coming up and everything and Christmas coming up, but we are going to try to make time for these. So we would love to have you guys post questions or hop on the call with us to answer live, because I think that's very exciting and you learn a lot more. But please, we are really, really trying hard to build up this Facebook group, make it as active as possible so that you guys can get more help in a free community. So we would love to have you guys posting more often. And if you do have silly questions, I guarantee it's not as silly as you think, because someone else is probably thinking it and they don't want to post, and then you don't want to post, and then it's this whole thing, and then you end up DMing us. Just post in the group. Okay. So happy to connect with you guys that way. And then if you have other questions, all of us are available on our website or through direct message. And feel free to reach out anytime. So happy Friday, and we hope to see you guys on the next one.
Happy Friday.
Bye.
Bye, guys.